Welcome back. This is episode 3 of Lessons on the Road. We're currently in a town called Minca, which is in the north end of Colombia. Bit of a weekly recap. I travelled to Panama City from Bocas del Toro via bus, so we went down to a place called Boquete, then we went to another place called Valle de Anton, and then we went into Panama City, stayed one night, caught a plane over to Santa Marta, stayed there for a few nights by the beach. Now we're at Minca, staying in the mountains for a couple nights. During this time, we lined up a workaway opportunity with a couple from America. Then a few days before we were meant to go and do that, it actually got cancelled. So we're currently booking accommodation and staying a little bit longer in Minca, working out what we're going to do in the way of the workaway we wanted to do, and then also trying to see Tayrona Park, which is actually shut, which happens 3 times a year. And it just happens to be shut while we're here. And that shuts for 2 weeks. So we've got to wait until the 14th until we can actually go to the park. So we're trying to see, is it worth just staying and doing the things we need to do and then go to the Tayrona Park, or do we try and still find a workaway? So we think we're just going to stay until Tayrona Park opens and then fly straight out and go to Medellin, which is working our way down Colombia. We tried Colombian coffee and seafood, so we had some fried fish straight off the ocean, which was nice and fresh, and then we tried some different types of coffee in Colombia, which is the Sierra Nevada coffee bean, which was really cool. I've always dreamed of having coffee in Colombia because it's just like they just go together. Weekly takeaways. To keep moving forward, even when the path may not fully be clear, but it feels right. This has been a big one for me in the way of when things have come up or happened while traveling or trying to do things, understand that if I just stay consistent and that I just keep revising and reviewing, it will reveal itself along the way and I will keep getting better. Starting when I don't feel qualified, making this YouTube was one of the best things I did in the way of that, because that's exactly how I felt. The more I can lean into things that I don't feel qualified for to do, the better off I am, and the more I develop at the thing. It goes for anything. Like if I choose to read a book over just taking some action and doing the thing, I'm still doing 2 things that are beneficial to me, but one is getting me far more results because I'm actually doing the thing. Starting to clip YouTubes to create short form content for Instagram. This is a little trial that I've been running in a way that I can try and improve posting more on Instagram by clipping some of the YouTube videos, some of the parts of the YouTube videos that I've made, and using them as short form. What this did for me instead was a lot of it I couldn't reuse, but they gave me ideas and ways that I could refine it and turn it into short form content. So it's still a win either way. I watched a Rick Rubin podcast, and it really came to me about how much I like to listen to people, and this is a big reason why I struggle with short form content and even just making videos as a whole, is I like to listen to what people have to say, and I like to be able to build off that and attentively listen and get to really just understand them more. It's not whether they're right or wrong, or it's got nothing to do with that. It's just like I just am so curious about how people think, who they are, and where they got to where they've gotten, and how they've come to the conclusions that they come to, and just about them. I'm so interested in that. Watching that made me realize why I sometimes struggle and get to these points, because I can't have real human connection doing this. Longer form helps me a lot more because it can be a lot more conversation-like, but I still struggle in ways because I can't have the direct human connection, and there's no direction for me to build off in a sense when I'm not just having that conversation with in person. But we're improving. We're getting better at the thing. Being too ignorant while traveling, I've found there's times where when we've been traveling, I just haven't cared enough to the point where I could potentially put myself in a little bit of danger. I haven't yet, but it's just being aware that things can go wrong and there are dangerous places, and I should be putting more time and energy into how we're traveling and where we're going so that we're minimizing high risk. Finding intentional workaways. My partner and I were thinking about getting trapped into doing workaways that don't actually feel aligned or aren't really intentional with what it is we're trying to do. So for her, it's towards art. To me, it's filmmaking and drone capturing. Not that that's something I want to pursue, but it's something I want to get better at so it works well if I can do that through a workaway and do it as a volunteer opportunity. So we pulled back and just thought, well, it doesn't make sense to try and stretch our trip out more just for the sake of doing things we don't actually really feel connected to or want to do. So that was a good thought to have and a good reminder to not get stuck in that. Creating space to think is another thing I took away from this week. Is I find it really hard if I haven't, in a sense, created a space for myself to actually think and do things. If you were in a hostel and you're in a room with 8 people and I'm trying to think about things, I find it really hard when there's a lot of people and I haven't created the space for myself. When I come here and set up a camera like this, it's much easier for me to create that space because I set the camera up, I get the area to what I want it to be like, and then I seem to flow a lot harder with what it is that I'm trying to do. I like to feel like I can put my bag down. Over the last week, we've travelled to, I think, 4 different accommodations. There's been a flight there, and there's been going from being on the beach to being in the mountains, travelling through the cities. It can be a lot sometimes, it can be really exhausting, and I like to be able to put my bags down for a while and do a work away for 2 or 3, 4 weeks. It's enjoyable to be able to feel like you actually get to understand the place on a different level when you can drop your bags down. Not feel rushed all the time. That also comes with my organisation skills, which I'm still working on. Relearning lessons. So an example that I use was being organised. Again, it's something that I feel like I have to keep relearning because I just don't seem to put enough time towards it, which affects other things. Some weekly lows that I had. I actually struggled this week to come up with weekly lows because I've had a really good week. I felt like I've really progressed in things that I've been working on and following through, even though the path can sometimes feel foggy. I feel like I've gained a lot out of this week. I've had some really good reflections. I've watched a podcast that I really connected to, and that gave me a really good sense of what I should be trying to do and to see things from a different way and approach content, filmmaking, and what it is that I'm doing from a different angle. Poor organisation, I just chuck that in as a low because, again, it's something that I have to keep relearning. It comes time and time again. We're taking the next few days to sit down and actually organise what the next month looks like, start organising Peru and getting things organised, because the more organised we are, the better opportunities we can get when it comes to intentional workaways. If we leave everything to the last minute, we've found we tend to miss out on things we want to do, and it's affecting the way we do other things. The more we can just be somewhat organised and have some rough dates penciled in and finding the opportunities we want to go to, messaging them months in advance and trying to actually get some sort of system running that clears up a lot of time and space for the other things we want to pursue. Suitcases. I knew this was going to be an issue, but I just didn't push hard enough to get all my stuff into a big backpack that I already had from Nepal. If this is the worst problem I'm having, my problems are quite good. I can still get around, but the only thing that it's getting in the way is it sticks out more, which can potentially be more risky when you are traveling. A lot of the places we're going to are off-grid, and it's causing us to have to carry suitcases more often. When we're crossing over between countries and towns and want to have a look at certain things, we've got a bulky suitcase that we have to carry. So they're getting in the way. My suitcase is on its last legs, so we're thinking once mine kicks the bucket, we'll get a bag sent over, or we're going to somehow get our way into a hiking bag. Just have one suitcase at least. Yeah, off-grid suitcases, it's not great. It's not working great, I'll be honest, but it works. It's just, it can be frustrating when you already had the other things that you could have been using, but we've brought a lot of technology over with us. We've got the drones, we've got a lot of valuable stuff, this camera that I'm using, laptops, and yeah, we just were like, damn, we're going to be over here for like 9-10 months or even longer, and yeah, we're better off just getting suitcases. So yeah, it's an improvement. It's something that can definitely be thought about better. And same thing, we booked this trip 6 weeks before we were even leaving. I've got friends that I know that are going overseas next year, and they've already bought their bags, and they're going in January. So, yeah, we can be better organised once again. Travel ignorance, I'm going to put that as a weekly low just because it could be better. We've realize that the country we're currently in can be quite dangerous at times, and we just have to be more wary. So, having things like not having your phone out when you're on the streets, and just using common sense. Yeah, being a bit more aware, I think, is there's nothing wrong with that. All right, it doesn't mean you can't go to places. It's just being able to be realistic and mindful about where it is you're going and how you're getting there. Sometimes things, you don't realize how wrong they can go until they've happened. It's too late. So if we can be best prepared for that, we're going to have a much more nicer time here. Weekly highs. I've got quite a lot of weekly highs. I've had a great week. The YouTube content haul. So I'm trying a new little system where what I'm making on YouTube, I try to cut them up into clips, and I try to use them as short form content. And then I've realized now through a lot of them that don't work, I can remake them off the idea that I had and refine them and suit them towards Instagram. Example, I shot 9 pieces yesterday off things that I made from last week's YouTube video, but I've refined them and put them in a different sense, in a short form sense. So this is allowing me to reuse the things and the sparks that I've had, refine them and get a better understanding of them, while being able to create more content, being able to put out YouTubes, and there's a lot less work going into that, which has been really nice. Doing them in bigger batches and things like that has been really helpful. My improvement on content through long form has helped me flow so much more. It's been nice to make these videos. They've really helped me. Like I said last week, I mentioned that it's great when someone gets value out of something that also is helping you so much as well, meaning me. Doing this long form has really changed my perspective around documenting and making content, and the enjoyment that I can get out of doing something like this, and that I can keep refining, because I'm just obsessed with refining the thing, getting better at the thing, pulling it apart, weeding it out, and trying to become more authentic, more real, more honest, sharing more things, being more vulnerable, facing more humility. It's a really enjoyable process for me at this point in my life. I've really enjoyed the path. So that's been a green. I did a new newsletter that's going to come out soon, which it was about my struggle with short form and being really open and honest about where my current struggles and problems that I'm trying to solve stem from and how I'm pushing through them. I think it's really helpful for me when I can see people that I aspire and look up to share what they're going through. When I can do that too, it also helps me get through them. It helps me break down and break through the process and the thoughts that I'm trying to push through, as well as being able to share that. That is where the gold is for me, when other people share that too. I get a lot out of that, so I want to start implementing more of that with whoever's watching. Accommodation that fits. We've stayed in some accommodation over the last few nights where we've stayed at 2 different places, and they both just fit what it is we're trying to do. It gives me space to create, it gives me space under roofs, in areas where I can sit down and actually focus on the things that I'm trying to do, rather than it be so busy and so messy, have nowhere to sit, the connection's horrible, all that stuff. There's only so good you can get out here in the way of connection and power going out. Like, it's just a regular occurring thing. So having a place that I can sit at and have space to think at has been really helpful, because there's a time where when you pick a hostel or a place that doesn't really have much at all, but it's really crowded, it's really hard to actually create that space for you to think and to do things productively. And it gets in the way sometimes. So it's been really nice to pick more accommodation and to pay more attention about, are we going here? Are we going to a place that's going to help us be able to have that space? Revision turns into evolution. So I spoke about this last week, and it's still a weekly high for me because I really knuckled down with it this week, and it's being really aware of how you're refining things so that you're evolving at them. This YouTube video, I can already tell, is going to be better than last week's, and it's so much better than the first one. And this is only the third episode, but the fourth one that I've recorded, and I can already feel how much more passionate I am about it, and feel how much better it's going to turn out and be, because I'm being able to break myself down and learn how to be myself and create straight from the heart. So being able to revise that and work on that is really helpful when it comes to making these videos and working on projects. content shift through watching the podcast that Rick Rubin was in. That was just huge for me, being able to watch that and really resonate with how other people think. That I haven't watched a podcast in a long time. I've been reading a lot of books, and now I've taken the gas off the books a little bit, because I watched one podcast episode and that blew the roof off what it is that I'm focusing on. Like, it changed my perspective instantly, and it solved so many things that I couldn't even put into words over the last 12 months. There's certain times where you just hear something and you go, geez, that's the thing. Like, what he just said, that's exactly how I'm thinking. Had them moments throughout that podcast, which was insane. Like, I haven't had that in so long. It was so powerful. Watching more people I think like and resonate with, this ties into the podcast I watched. I want to go into more of that. Watch some more things, because I like to watch and listen to people. So I'm not sure now, why haven't I been watching podcasts very regularly? I need to tap into that, because it gives me so many ideas and so much perspective shift and different ways that I can be doing things and thinking and opening up. It really helps. So that's definitely a weekly high. Finding workways and planning travel. We've put in a lot more effort over the last week to plan things and travel and what we actually want to do. So over the next 4 days, we're going to be doing a lot more of that. So that's that's in the green for sure, because it's probably the biggest thing I struggle with when it comes to traveling. Refining YouTube, again, like I just spoke about, being able to break that down and refine it and just get better at it and build off it. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. Doesn't matter if it's YouTube, creating content, mixing music, doing things, building things with my hands, writing. I just love it. Gives me so much fulfillment, and it's just such a great personally developing path. It's just insane. I've seen another one of my old friends who just made an Instagram account and just put his first video out, and I just love seeing that. I love seeing people do things that scare the shit out of them, because I know it's exactly what I'm going through from day to day since like last September, and I know what it feels like. It can be frightening, humiliating. You can feel stupid about what you're doing because you don't feel qualified, but they are all the key bits that I look for now, and the evidence that if I push through them and lean into that, that's exactly where I get the most out of. So to me, when I see people that can just do it, they can just go for it, it excites me, because I know what it feels like, and I'm like, you are going to thank yourself so much for who you're about to become. And that becoming just keeps getting better and better when you can stay consistent but revise and then implement. It almost feels like it shouldn't be real, like it shouldn't be allowed, because it's just happened so fast. What's next? So we've looked into a place called Tayrona Park, which is the national park in Santa Marta, and we found that you can actually camp there. So we're trying to book a hammock. You sleep on a hammock there and you go camping out on the beach. You can go do hikes right through the national park for a few days. So we're trying to tee that up. Finding workways and planning our travel more. Starting to map out of Peru and what that even looks like. Working our way down to Medellin after we go to Tayrona Park. So we're thinking now that we probably won't do a workway where we currently are. We'll just go to the park, fly out of here, go to Medellin, and then we've already got a workway that we're looking into to do. So yeah, that's it for this week. There's been plenty of weekly highs, which I've been stoked about, because you have these weeks that are good, you have these weeks that aren't necessarily as enjoyable, but they're really growth orientated, and then there's some weeks where it's just like green, like you just like, I'm on. I know they're impermanent, I know they don't last, but I really like to be able to enjoy them and learn to enjoy them more, because that's what makes everything so much more fun. Thanks for watching, and yeah, keen for the next one.